This is fascinating. The judge in the Letitia James case against Donald Trump, you know that one for like $486 million. They're trying to penalize him for nearly $500 million because he had an inflated version of what he thought Mar-a-Lago was worth vis-a-vis what the judge and Letitia James think it's worth. They say 18 million. Good luck. I said I would buy it for 18 million. Seriously. I mean, that would be a steal. Letitia, you ought to line up a few investors and get that one together if that is really and truly the rate. But there's some funny stuff going on with the judge. It's all coming as Letitia, of course, responds to Donald Trump winning this election.
And lastly, I congratulate the President-elect Donald Trump. And if possible, we will work with his administration. But we will not compromise our values or our integrity or our principles. We did not expect this result, but we are prepared to respond to this result. And my office has been preparing for several months because we've been here before. We faced this challenge before. And we use the rule of law to fight back. And we are prepared to fight back once again. Because as the Attorney General of this great state, it is my job to protect and defend the rights of New Yorkers and the rule of law. And I will not shrink from that responsibility.
She won't shrink from that responsibility. But what exactly is going on? Do you see the headline I have at the bottom? This was actually back in June of 2024. Judge Erdogan will not recuse himself from the Trump civil fraud trial. Okay, he wasn't going anywhere. But then all of a sudden, this came out. It came out that he was being kind of forced aside. So what we learned was he was taken off the case. Arthur Engoron was taken off the case against Donald Trump. This just happened. So they assigned a new judge to preside. Fox was the first one reporting this, to preside over the civil fraud case against President-elect Trump, brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James, seemingly replacing Judge Arthur Engoron. But then hours later, the court picked him back up on the case. So what was that? I mean, everybody's been saying all along, this judge has tremendous bias. Tremendous bias because, he's contributed to Democrats his entire life. And what judge would actually come up with a $486 million? I mean, Letitia wasn't even asking for that much. He upped it. She wanted 200 and something. He's like, nope, we're going to make it $486 million that we're going to charge this guy. It's crazy. So again, at 12:45 p.m. on Thursday afternoon, the parties were notified that they were actually going to be putting Justice Judith McMahon of Staten Island onto the case. And then what do you know? By 4:12, they'd changed their minds. Attorneys on the case received another automated message saying, nope, Arthur's back on. I think this is very strange. Enormously strange. I think they would be a lot better off getting rid of the extraordinarily biased guy. I mean, heck, even the Court of Appeals, which any day now, I'm getting a little frustrated. I got to tell you, you know what? I'm a patient person, remarkably patient. Hey, I have 3 kids. I have to be. But this is getting a little insane. It should have taken a month. And now we're going on at least 2 months, 2+ months, for the Court of Appeals in New York to throw this case out. They need to throw it out so fast. And guess what they also need to do? They need to disbar one Letitia James because she's a political animal that needs to be controlled. Here's the Court of Appeals telling her surrogate there, Judith Vale, who's trying to plead this case on behalf of Letitia, honey, you got nothing. You got bupkis. There's no case there.
May it please the court, Judith Vale for the New York Attorney General's office. All of the defendants repeatedly violated...
Ms. Vale, can you identify any previous case in which the Attorney General sued under Executive Law 6312 to upset a private business transaction that was between equally sophisticated partners where the supposed victim had the ability and legal obligation to discover the allegedly misrepresented matters by conducting its own due diligence, where the supposed wrongdoer advised the supposed victim through written disclaimers to conduct its own due diligence and to draw its own conclusions, where the alleged misrepresentation almost entirely concerned inherently subjective valuations of properties and businesses.
Yes.
And where the victim never complained about any fraud in the transactional losses from it. Because I've gone through the cases which you've cited, and all of them always involved the consumer protection aspect. It involved protection of the market.
Well, several responses.
And I want to add to his question, and little to no impact on the public marketplace.
Okay. So there is no case. There's no case. They're switching the judge and the switcheroo thing, and yet they put this guy back on who clearly has a personal bias against Donald Trump. How else do you come up with $500 million other than they're trying to bankrupt him? That's the goal here. They are trying to bankrupt the future president of the United States of America. I mean, she basically said it. I know some of you have seen this before, but it's important. And if you're just tuning in for the first time, I've been all over this story. I have played some of this sound ad nauseum. I get it. But this is Letitia James saying she's going to show up on his doorstep. She just can't wait to get to Trump Tower and take it from him. Darn it. I don't have that one, but I do have this.
At the end of the day, the documentary evidence demonstrated that, in fact, he falsely inflated his assets to basically enrich himself and his family. He continued to persistently engage in fraud. The numbers don't lie.
I mean, Letitia, you really want us to think that Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million? Really? I mean, are we supposed to take your word on it? When did you become a real estate expert? So let me just point out, you don't actually know what anything's worth, technically, until it sells. That's when you have something on paper. Prior to that, it's kind of in the eye of the beholder. But I would point out that Mar-a-Lago makes $56 million a year in income. Therefore, why would anybody sell it for 18? It didn't have any debt on it. I mean, this woman is completely high, but you know what? She has a totally different agenda. We've seen that agenda on.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We know he's losing it. Yes. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
Okay, boy, does it get under your skin or what? So she has a political vendetta against him. She figured she could raise her profile. Heck, she may want to run for president one day. And she has the ability to say, oh, you know what? I'm the one that went after Donald Trump. I'm the one that bankrupted him. I'm the one that did this, that, and the other. Good luck, honey, because, by the way, Truth Social, I guess, is worth a lot of money these days. But here's the problem. You've got a legal system that's so messed up, and is so messed up that you have a judge that's in cahoots with Letitia, and Letitia who just wants to take him down for personal reasons. And, that adds up into a pretty bad and, frankly, dangerous scenario. I mean, the Court of Appeals, get going. We're still waiting, and you got to actually turn this thing around. But you know what may happen? Kash Patel may beat them to it first. More on that in a second. But first, a shout out to my financial research company, 76research.com. If you're interested in investing in stocks, and believe me, you should be. You really should be. I can't emphasize that enough. Go check out 76research.com. We have a special deal for just $1 a month. Use code word dollar, DOLLAR, my gift to you for just $1 a month. You can get all of our research there from the 76 report. For an additional, I think it works out to like an additional $22 a month. You can tack on one of the portfolios. We have 3 different portfolios. One's a growth portfolio, another's an income builder portfolio, and then we have an inflation protection portfolio. So go check it out, 76research.com today. But I'll tell you this, Letitia should be very scared right now. If I were her, I'd be terrified because you know what? Everything's going to get exposed. They're peeling the Band-Aids off right now. We're going to just see how messed up this is. Kash Patel saying this just the other night.
I mean, this is so unprecedented. It's just amazing that he would say that.
It's shockingly unconstitutional, Trace. It's great to be with you, and I'm here to announce on your show a measure that I'm working with Congress that should be Congress's bread and butter. And I'm calling for the subpoenas to be issued to Judge Merchant's daughter's company, who made $15+ million from the illicit information pouring out of her father's courtroom. I want to know the bank records because money doesn't lie. Yep. I want to know how deep it is and how much of it went to the family and how much of it is going to the family after this false conviction. And then we need to investigate the FEC actual violations that this judge and his family conducted, because he should never have been overseeing this trial to begin with because of the illicit campaign money that was flowing through there, and the unconstitutional due process violations are only the beginning. So America is calling for accountability of our judicial system, and Congress is the only lever that has it, and I'm hoping for 1 or 2 brave members of Congress that I'm talking to issue those subpoenas ASAP.
So he's referring, of course, to what was going on with Judge Merchant and the quote-unquote hush money case, which is just a travesty unto itself. And frankly, there was no crime, and Alvin Bragg knew that, and he didn't have the jurisdiction, et cetera. So that thing should get thrown out. And he's right. Like, he wants to know just exactly what was going down between Merchant, and was Merchant getting any of the kickbacks from his daughter? It could just be that he was this ideologue that had this crazy vision that somehow he was going to stop Trump. That might be what was going on with Arthur too. But I will say this, Letitia should be worried because there's already a motion filed by one Elise Stefanik in the state of New York to disbar her. And I suspect, one of you guys is pointing this out, and you're right, that this case will be ruled on by the Court of Appeals after the 20th. So after the inauguration, you can anticipate that this will get thrown out on its you-know-what, and Letitia with it. Because at that point, people are going to start to say, why did you waste taxpayer dollars? Why did you waste taxpayers' time? Pam Bondi is also involved in this. Pam Bondi going in, and she is going to be absolutely merciless. She has already made it clear over and over again that there are heads that need to roll. And let me just say this. This is not a political thing, okay? I'm the last person. I actually really, as a patriot, just believe in the sanctity of the system and making sure that we have a fair system so that innocent people are protected. We can't have a system where, oh, you're my political enemy, therefore I'm going to go after you with lawfare. What kind of country is that? And by the way, the tables can turn just as quickly. I mean, for the last 4 years, we've seen versions of that in the social media platforms, right? Mark Zuckerberg now admitting it all. He's spilling the beans on just exactly what the Biden administration was doing. Look, we don't need that, okay? You can't have a country where you're going to shut off half of the people or an entire side because you don't agree with their vision of the world. It's just so unbelievably, horrifically wrong. So a lot has to change. Kash Patel coming in, I think. Pam Bondi coming in, I think. And I think you're going to start to see things that really shift things. I mean, already, if you listen, and again, I've played this before, but in the Court of Appeals, David Friedman, one of the judges there at the appellate court, is saying, wait a second, how do we make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't get so out of control in the future? Because we can't have attorney generals with this much power, wielding this kind of power, doing these kind of crazy things.
You're pointing to Ernst & Young, you're pointing to First American. Ernst & Young, you're dealing with the collapse of Lehman Brothers. First American, you're dealing with an action brought against an appraiser who overvalued properties at the behest of a lender, perpetrating a scheme to induce unsophisticated consumers into taking out home loans that they could not afford. It hardly seems that justifies bringing an action to protect Deutsche Bank against President Trump, which is what you have here. I mean, you've got two really sophisticated parties in which no one lost any money, and that was the point of my initial question. Every case that you cite involved where there was damage to consumers, damage to the marketplace. You've got a scheme to get unsophisticated consumers to take out home loans. We got a collapse of Lehman Brothers. You don't have anything like that here.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, the statute doesn't require that whatsoever for liability. And the statute is written broadly because the legislature wants the Attorney General to go in and stop fraud and illegality.
So I think you hear underneath all these questions, the question of mission creep. Has 6312 morphed into something that it was not meant to do? And that's something you must address, because there has to be some limitation on what the Attorney General can do in interfering in these private transactions, as Justice Friedman said, that where people don't claim harm. So what is the limiting principle?
I want to jump in. Thank you. Piece of my mind pointing out that I was muted when I said this. I was just saying, like, this is crazy, right? The judge is leading to this question of, wait a second, if you're telling me that the authority is within the AG's perspective and they have this ability, then we actually need to look at the statute and we actually need to start changing things, because nobody should have the ability to do what she did, right? That is just so blatantly overly wrong. And that has to change. So I would anticipate that, yes, we are going to see some changes, and we may see some actual sort of massaging of the law in ways that would restrict Letitia James going forward. And that needs to happen. So Letitia, you should be worried. I actually think that you're going to be probably out of a job, probably out of a law license, and probably in some trouble with federal authorities, which would be a good thing. Reminder, if you have not gone to 76 Research, if you don't want to spend $1 a month, come on, you guys have $1 a month, right? $1 a month, you can cancel anytime, so you're not even out $1. $1 a month at 76research.com. It goes to $9.95 after the first 2 months. So again, you can cancel anytime, but go check out Invest in MAGA, because that's totally free. Investinmaga.com. Rob and I, that's my partner at 76 Research. He's a long-time dear friend and brilliant stock picker, absolutely brilliant. And, you know, he did this for 20 some odd years on Wall Street, running billions of dollars. And now I'm like, hey, we need to do something for people that don't understand finance in the same kind of way. And there's so much opportunity ahead. And I'm a big believer in this, that you need to be invested right now. So go check that out at investinmaga.com today. Make sure, if you haven't subscribed, that you do subscribe to this channel.